joining us on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is Jackson Emery, the all-time steals leader here at BYU. Jackson, how's it going, brother?
Good morning, guys. Just trying to make my way through the Utah spring of snow, 80-degree weather. I don't even know how I feel at times just because of this weather.
Yeah, it's the perfect temperature for a cold. That's what it is. We've been talking about BYU hoops, specifically kind of the guard situation for next year. 4 scholarship guys now with Jake Toolson transferring. Did you expect Jake to come back or not?
To be honest, I did not, for a variety of different reasons. I mean, you look at, kind of what happened this year with Jake, kind of December having, those mental and, health issues that he had to deal with. But, when you look at it, when you take a step back, you definitely could see that, Jake, I think, was a little concerned with, the upcoming freshman, his ability to contribute and play for the team, as well as you take a step back and you look at it from a coach perspective. When you have a player that is unable to compete at a high level, that really hurt the team this year. I mean, fortunately, Celius played out of his mind and played awesome. But, that really hurt the team. And when you have players that do that, I didn't think that it would be realistic to have Jake come back. So, in all reality, I was anticipating some type of transfer towards the end of the year.
When you look at the talent level, how would you compare the talent level this year versus what is coming back and guys coming in for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think BYU fans should be excited. The thing that I was talking to Nick about this week is I was laughing because, you see on Twitter, you see on Facebook, you see people talking about, BYU's going to, run the table next year and this and that. And
whoa, who's saying that? Gee.
There's a lot of people out there just saying all these things. There's a lot of expectations on this group, but, I think we need to take a step back as fans and realize we have a lot of talent. They're coming in. You have all these guys that played really well in high school that have all the talent in the world, but they're freshmen and sophomores. I mean, it's hard to put those expectations on anyone. And do I think they could do something special? Heck yeah. I honestly believe that. But I also want to make sure that we understand that there's a lot of growth. You got guys coming off their missions. There's a lot of curveballs being thrown at them, and these guys are going to put in the work and the effort. And I still feel like it's going to be special, but we got to make sure that, those guys understand that, hey, let's just take it one step at a time and, don't get too far ahead of yourself.
The funny thing about that thought of running the table is I just remembered you on media day saying, yeah, we think we can win every game your senior year. And you almost did win every game. That's the funny thing about it, right?
It's funny. It's funny bringing that up, Jeremy, because the other day I was talking to Quincy, and I was telling him about that specific incident, and I think it was Rod Zundel asked me the question, and I just said, and he said, do you think, how do you like your schedule? And I said, well, I love our schedule. I look at every game, and I think we can win every game. And he's like, oh, so you think you'll go undefeated? I'm like, no. That's not what I'm saying. As a competitor.
Jackson Emery says BYU going undefeated.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, you just want a news headline. I'm like, I can give you that, but I'm not going to give you that. I'm like, but, you look at every game as a competitor, and I sure hope every player on the team looks at it and says, you know what? If we play our game, we play together, we can win that game. And that's the type of confidence you want every player to have, and that's how you want them to approach every practice.
With some distance now, Jackson, from the season ending, how do you view this past basketball season now?
I went into it with, high expectations. You had, Kyle and Chase, some awesome seniors that, are awesome individuals that could do great things on the court. But I also took a step back and looked at it. I said, holy mackerel, you look at the rest of the guys. Some of these guys, whether they're incoming freshmen, whether they're coming off their missions, whether they've redshirted for a year or transferred, you have pretty much the rest of the team that's not played 1 minute of collegiate basketball. So you add a ton of experience with no experience, and, it was going to be interesting to see. I was really excited to know that they went to Spain last August because I thought that would really help them. But we saw just with this year, it was a team that started off games really slow and against teams that they needed to win and games that really mattered, we didn't get the job done in those games. I thought we figured it out towards the end of the year, but it was a little too late. And the committee, you could tell, already had made their mind up about BYU, so we had to make a run in order to get into the tournament. I still feel like if we got in, we would have made a little bit of a splash. But you know, a lot of talent, a lot of expectations, but a lot of youth, and ultimately just came up a little short, and it seemed like that was the story of this year's team.
Jackson, I look at next year's team, and obviously a lot of talent and a lot of young talent, as you've mentioned, we've talked about on the show. I'm a little scared to pull a Tyler Haws again, which is this. Tyler Haws left a team, and everyone thought this team's going to be better. It's hard to replace a guy like Tyler Haws. It's hard to replace a guy like Kyle Collinsworth and Chase Fischer. Is it maybe unfair to them to assume that next year, although overall talent will increase, that the result would be drastically different?
You know, and the thing I look at is when Tyler left, were we hurt? Yes. You know, but you know, at the end of the day, we score baskets. That's not our problem. We can put the ball in the basket. You know, losing points, it's not like we went from scoring 80 a game to 60. I mean, we can put the ball in the basket. You know, the one thing that these guys need to figure out, it's not about the individual talent. It's about getting a group of guys that can lock down, that can play team basketball. And the last couple of years we've had a lot of great individual talent, but we haven't had the group of guys that have been able to figure it out to play on a high level to win the conference, as well as be a top 25 team. So hopefully these guys understand that it's not necessarily about scoring 30 a game; it's about just winning basketball games. And I think these guys understand that. A lot of them have sacrificed scoring 25, 30 a game to score 18 a game, 15 a game. That's still a good amount of points. And I think these guys are fine with it because all they care about is winning. And so that's what I'm really excited about, is get these guys back. And I think some games you'll see Mika go for 30. I think you'll see TJ for 30, Nick for 30. And then other games you'll see him for 5, 6, 9. And, we'll be fine with that as long as we look up at the end of the game and see that, we got the W.
One of the reasons that BYU fans, quite frankly coaches, are so excited about the future is what everybody saw out of your brother Nick last year. I know everybody was extremely pleased. What surprised you about Nick's freshman season, if anything?
I expected him to play really well. I did. But, the thing that really surprised me, to tell you the truth, guys, is, you think about the last year and what Nick went through, either physically or emotionally, with, his health issues with his foot, that freak accident that he had in July, to, kind of the emotional turmoil he went through with, his mistake with Brandon Taylor against Utah. With all these different things that happened, I was very impressed to see him keep his composure and use that to make himself better. By no means Nick is a perfect player or a perfect individual, but his effort to make amends to those situations, I thought he did an awesome job, and he played at a high level, and I had those expectations for him, but to have that mental strength, I was super proud of him as a brother.
BYU basketball reminds me of kind of what BYU football did in the 80s, which is, okay, we're gonna play the game kind of a different way. We're going to be an outlier a little bit. BYU runs, they score a lot. There's a lot of possessions. BYU's always efficient and pushes the tempo that way. BYU football passed the ball more than anyone else in the past. Yet I look at the NCAA tournament, and that's when I really dig in on college basketball, and I see two things with the really good teams. Defense, and they value possession. Do you think that will improve for BYU the next couple years?
I hope so. And I think on the offensive side, you always see, the tweets from Greg and everything. Our offensive efficiency is really impressive. It's always, you feel like top 10, top 20 in the nation. What I look at is, can we get better on the defensive side of the ball? Because when you run as much as you do, sometimes you can get in the mentality of, it's all right, you score 2, I'll score 3. And that's a dangerous mentality to have, because when you go on the road and you play these teams that are pretty good and you're not scoring the basketball, you're not shooting as well as you could, those are the times you need to figure out how to win on the other side. And, I was really impressed with their win at Gonzaga this year, because I felt like it was one of those games. They didn't shoot great, but they figured out how to win. And if they have that mentality throughout the whole year, This year I felt like it was going to be a whole different team, and I feel like if they can do that the next couple of years, that's where this team goes from, really talented to really special.
One of the staples of Dave Rose's offense, or really his teams in general, since he's been here, really his entire coaching career, has been predicated on the play of the guards. Even when BYU's had very good post players, everything still originated from the guard line. Do you anticipate that ever changing?
It's a great question. You kind of look at BYU's recruiting line. You kind of, BYU is a unique school. You kind of have to take who's out there in regards to, the people that are able and willing to come to BYU. So, recently I feel like in the last several years it's been more of a guard-oriented team. With Mika coming back, with Yoli coming to the program, with Kyle Davis there, and Peyton Dastrup coming back. I told Nick, I said, listen, you throw the ball inside, it will just open everything up, because I promise you, if they think they're going to guard Mika one-on-one in the post, their teams are going to get, a strong gut punch, and then once they start doubling him, who do they leave open? Is it you? Is it TJ? Is it Elijah? Who do they leave open? And that's what, honestly, I felt like made us really good my senior year is we would throw Brandon the ball or Noah the ball, and if they didn't want to double them, that's fine. We would go at them one-on-one all day. But the minute they doubled him, it's like pick your poison. Who are you going to leave open? And so I feel
Logan Magnuson, baby.
Logan Magnuson against Hawaii or Wagner.
Wofford. Yeah, it was good.
Or Wofford. Sorry, Wofford.
Yeah, that was fun, and that's been something, you're right, that's kind of been missing, which is the dump it in, draw a double kind of guy. So that'll be interesting to see. Next year's team. I don't think next year's team is the team that BYU fans believe will make that kind of deep run, maybe deeper than has ever happened. Maybe it's next year. I don't know. But what do you expect about the young guns on next year's team? What can they do?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think we can all expect them to score the basketball. This is unique. If you guys think about this, you have Elijah, Nick, and TJ. If they all play well together, those could be your three, guard starters for the next 3 years. Plus, you add in Mika, who will be here for the next 3 years. Plus, you'll have, a Yoli Childs, who's, not LDS, not going on a mission, who'll be here for the next 4 years. So you have a core group of individuals who will be here for several years, and you usually don't see that at BYU in really any sport just because of missions and timing and all these things. So I think you'll see a lot of scoring. I think you'll see a lot of guys that only care about one thing, and that's winning. And, and you're going to see improvement game after game from these guys, because I tell you what, these guys work hard, and they really care about each other and the team.
It's going to be a couple of fun years to watch, that's for sure. Jackson, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, anytime, guys. Great. It's great time to be a Coug. Congrats to Lexi and being drafted yesterday. It's really exciting to see some of the successes of these players at BYU.
Absolutely. Jackson, we appreciate the time, man.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jax.
That's